evening. I decided for our first module discussion that I was just going to go ahead and make a video. There was so much to take away from our chapter readings and our additional readings in the videos that I thought that this might be an easier way for me to get my ideas across. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with the first question, which was, what does effective instruction for ELs look like? So basically what I pulled out from our book was that there's 8 components to sheltered instruction, and really that was the first time I've heard of sheltered instruction, so I had to look closely at the different components. But the first one was lesson preparation. The second was building background, so making connections to students' background experiences and their prior knowledge to helping them develop their academic vocabulary, which I found that one very interesting, especially since I'm taking multicultural literature course where we're talking a lot about having students see themselves in what they're reading, and how much more valuable that would be for an EL reader. Really kind of stuck out to me. The third component was comprehensible input, so how we as teachers can adjust our speech, how we model tasks, the techniques we use to enhance comprehension. So in the Goldenberg article, the Research on ELs article, he also talks about sheltered instruction, and there in that article it said that there's new research that shows that playing videos that connect to books that are been read aloud in class can be beneficial to ELs. And I don't know why I hadn't connected that before, how it would be beneficial to ELs, because I remember when I was learning French in high school, we would read aloud and then we would watch a video that kind of helped us with the concept that we just read aloud. So I don't know why I didn't make that connection for my English language learners. But I found that really interesting that that was new research. The next component is strategies. So scaffolding instruction, teaching learning strategies, prompting critical thinking skills. One of the other readings just outright said that best practices are effective. So it doesn't matter if it's best practices for general ed population or if it's best practices for ELs. Good practices are good practices. However, it did mention that best practices for ELs or just best practices for gen ed is really not enough for ELs, but it does affect them in a positive way regardless. Okay, the fifth strategy component is interaction. So giving students chances to practice or elaborate their speech. And the sixth was practice and application. I thought both of those components really tied in to the immersion video we watched, where the student, he's trying to make the connection from math and reading. He's trying to connect those two elements together, but he's also trying to make a connection with his teacher. And there's just this level of frustration across the board. The student's frustrated, the teacher's frustrated, the principal's frustrated. And that video was heartbreaking to watch, because it's all the things that we know about ELs, but to have it in a visual, that really stuck with me. And then the last component is review and assessment. So reviewing key language and concepts, assessing student learning, providing valuable feedback. And again, that ties into just best practices for all students, but how it's even more important for EL students. So that's kind of what I pulled out of our reading from the book and from the videos, but there's one other video, the video about language acquisition that I found really interesting as well. So Stephen Krashen, I hope I'm saying his last name right, he said this in the video. He said the important role is with acquisition. It gives us fluency and accuracy. So in the video, he talks a lot about how he loves grammar, um, and I'm laughing because I don't really love grammar, but how he loves grammar and how he always thought that, you acquire language and you learn language, and how he split it up his time in class with 2 days of learning language and 2 days of acquiring language. But as time went by, he realized that the importance wasn't on language learning. The important part of it was language acquisition. And as educators, I think it's very beneficial for us to know that, for us to recognize that it's not necessarily about learning the language as it is acquiring the language. And there's so many different ways that students can do that. So that kind of leads me to my second question, which is, how would you characterize the types of instruction offered to ELs in my school or district, and how does it compare with best practices? So in my introductory video, I told you all that I have very limited experience with ELs. I've only ever taught 4 students that needed EL services, and I've had limited contact with the ESOL teacher within my building. So to prepare for this discussion and for our upcoming Module 1 assignment, I reached out to my ESOL teacher within my building, and she kind of gave me some valuable insights into what actually happens within my building, but what also happens within my district. So within my building, she's the only ESOL teacher within the building, but we share her. So in our county, there's 50 schools and 20 ESOL teachers. Yeah, so she spends her time at other schools as well. But she told me that within our building, there is sheltered instruction provided, and that students, our ELs, have sheltered instruction for the first semester. It's only provided our first semester. So basically, we're on a block schedule at my school. So students only get sheltered instruction from July to December, which led me to ask her what happens if a student transfers in during spring semester, to which she told me that she still assesses them. She provides them services as best as she can, but it's not necessarily the same as a student who gets sheltered instruction during the first semester. So is that best practices? I don't think so. Actually, I know it's not. So that's something that I think my school and my district could improve upon. But I also think it's astounding that there's only 20 ESOL teachers within my county when Henry County is rapidly growing, and according to one of the articles I read for class, Georgia is like one of the top ranked places for ELs population. So I found that pretty crazy that there's only 20 of them. So I think that another part of it is I didn't even know what sheltered instruction, if I'm being authentic with you all, I didn't even really know what sheltered instruction or the components of it. I didn't know that until I started doing the module readings and I reached out to the ESOL instructor within my building. So I think there definitely needs to be some professional development within my county to help teachers understand what are considered best practices, or what is considered best practices for EL students. I think that's necessary at this point, especially within my school, because even though I have only had 4 EL students, I was looking the other day at our CCRPI score, and I was just looking at some other data, and we do have I think it's like a 8 to 10% EL population, so we do need to be able to address those students and to help those students. So I think that about covers the questions for this module, and hopefully I answered those questions correctly. So thanks for watching my discussion post, and I look forward to discussing things further with you all in the future.